The BAME Vision logo, 4 solid circles from left to right in colours of brown, tan, coffee and beige, with the words BAME written in white within them, with the word vision written in tan underneath, and below the words supporting ethnically diverse communities with their eye health and sight loss in brown.
Hi, my name is Sylvia. I am a Black woman, kind of young. I'm going to say I'm young. I'm wearing a really bright green blazer, which goes, it's my dopamine dressing. I dress in bright colors to make myself happy. So I am a BAME Vision committee member, and also I work as a campaigns and engagement intern in the sight loss sector. And also I am a digital content creator. So you will see me, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and so on and so forth, making videos and general content about lifestyle and disability advocacy. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Over to Lance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lance Campbell. I am an eye care champion for a charity called Seeability. I am mildly autistic myself. I go around and promote eye care for people with learning disabilities and autism to make sure that everyone has equal access to eye care.
Okay, thank you very much, Sylvia and Lance. And didn't describe myself, so I am a Black woman. I have very short hair, and I love wearing my hair short. I cut my hair short quite a while ago. Also, I'm wearing a purple shawl. I love purple; it's my favorite color. And I hasten to add, I'm coming up to a very big birthday, and I'm very happy about that. So, okay, so I'd like to after my introductions, hand over to Sylvia to ask the first question and introduce the panelists.
Thank you, Beverly. So for our first question we're going to ask the panelists to please introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Souleyman. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Souleyman Bah. I am 24 years old and I suffer from retinitis pigmentosa, which is a degenerative eye condition, also known as tunnel vision and night blindness, and will apparently lead to complete blindness one day. In terms of my description, I am a young-looking Black male in a white t-shirt wearing white headphones. In terms of career, I am a Paralympic athlete for Great Britain. I represent Great Britain in the Youth Paralympics, winning gold medal in Brazil in 2015. I then went on to start an entrepreneurial career to tackle disability issues in the entrepreneurial community and push that into being the first disabled candidate on the Apprentice, and also a public speaking career as well, promoting disabilities and diversity in the corporate area.
Let's go over to Leah. Leah, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Leah King. I am a young Black woman. I am a business owner. I'm an ex-GB athlete of over 10 years. I was 7-time national champion. My eye condition is optic atrophy, which was caused by a brain tumor I had at the age of 20. Since then, I'm an author. I do digital entrepreneurial, multiple streams of income like trading, and I own my own business as a hairdresser, and I'm also a mother.
Lovely, thank you so much, Leah. Courtney, I don't know if you've...
I can hear. Can you hear me? Yeah, good evening, everyone. I am Courtney Nugent. I am also a Black lady of, I would like to say I'm quite young, I'm 35 years old. Lost my sight at the age of 3 due to a brain tumor. And I currently work as a volunteer coordinator in the sight loss sector.
Thank you, Courtney. I'm just going to hand you back over to Beverly now, or yeah, actually, we're going over next to Lance to ask the next question.
Okay, so I'm now going to ask, we're going to get straight into the discussion. So I'm going to ask each panelist this question. Often POC find it difficult to talk about their experiences of marginalization or stigma, particularly when it is in their own community. So I'll start with Souleyman. Have you faced any challenges around your ethnicity and sight loss from inside or outside your community?
Yes, I have had both experiences on both sides of the fence, in my community and outside of my community, both negative and positive. Inside of my community, of course, you know, when you get the diagnosis of a vision impairment, even before so, you know, when you start, you know, bumping into door frames and other people and not being able to read things, you know, you get kind of like a judgment or a stigma, or you know, people think you're just a bit slow, or it's another health condition, or you know, just kind of like a look of curiosity. In my culture specifically, I'm from an African country called Guinea, which is in the west of Africa. And I came over to the UK at the age of 5 because of my disability specifically. I wasn't able to see the chalkboard that the teacher was writing on. And after putting my hand up and saying I can't see the chalkboard, they said, "No, you are just a stupid boy." And that was kind of like the reaction I got. So that was a negative experience I had. But the positive experience was my culture never really held me back to being a fully developed human being. Like they said, you know, yes, you might have some eye conditions, but you're still a human being. You're still going to do the same things your siblings do. You're still going to tidy the house and mop the floor and babysit. So they never looked at me as any less or any different. But as I say, the negatives were, you know, the stigma of vision impairment. In terms of outside my community, I think society has been really good to me, especially in school. I've always had support. So, you know, no one's ever really discriminated me in that sense. It's always just been the general public, especially using a cane in public. That's always been the stigma I faced. I've not really, faced any discrimination in that sense in organized. I have, and I think there are questions later on actually where I can be more specific, but as a whole, I've had both positive and negative in my community and externally. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you, Souleyman. Yeah, definitely. But thank you for that as well. And yeah, there's definitely questions come up later where you can give your experiences as well. So now I'll move on to Courtney to answer this question. Have you faced any challenges around your ethnicity and sight loss from inside or outside of your community?
Yeah, so I think for me, losing my sight at a young age, I think maybe I never faced any sort of discrepancies like in my growing up. Like I think for most, it would probably be my mum that would have probably faced most of it. But also, I just thinking about this question, then I always remember like being in uni and, you know, people not wanting to work with me because I had a disability. And, you know, it was difficult, but that was 10 years ago. And I will also say, just repeating about what Souleyman said about using a cane, you know, I do get those questions about, you know, why are you using a cane, you know, but you can see. So, you know, why are you using it? Obviously, everybody's eyesight is different and people think, you know, you have to look blind to use a cane. So yeah, so those are, I don't know if I've answered the question, but yeah.
Thank you, Courtney. And now Leah, I'll move on to you and ask, have you faced any challenges around your ethnicity and sight loss from inside or outside the community?
Leah speaking here. I have, first of all, I forgot to describe myself. So I am a Black woman with dreadlocks wearing a pink, coral, I think orange. I'm colorblind as well. So my daughter's told me that it's pinkish blazer. But yeah, I have actually been affected by that within the community as well. I think that the challenges that I've faced is being overlooked. It's like being put into a corner. you can't really do much because your eyes don't work. That's how I felt, and that's how it's come across. Also, because I was born sighted, and this has affected me. When I speak about something, or if something is really hurting me, because I'm supposed to have a high pain threshold, it's really like simmered down. People don't hear what I'm trying to say. When I did become visually impaired, I grabbed a cane as soon as I could. So with that, I don't know if it became like a disguised disability, but as soon as I had a cane, people within my community treated me differently. They didn't want to ask me for anything. They didn't want me to help with anything, or they felt like I couldn't. I think with society outside of my ethnicity and my community, I was pregnant when after I became visually impaired. Now, I feel like people don't understand that visually impaired people can also have families. So the questions were coming up: how are you pregnant and blind at the same time? You know, how are you supposed to live your life? These type of questions really did impact my day-to-day life and made my life very challenging at that. And it's just how you go about those challenges. But it was really the small things, like getting my hair done, trying to do makeup. It was something that as a young Black woman, you try to keep up with. I'm not keeping up with it anymore. You know, I find my own way. So definitely in and out of outside my community and inside my community. Definitely. I found that people found it hard to adapt slightly, or if I was, they made me feel like I was worried to ask questions or even ask for help. So it was very isolating, and I felt very neglected.
Well, thank you, Leah. Now, just before I move on, I forgot to describe a description of myself. I'm a young Black man, 23 years old. I'm not visually impaired, but I'm hardly autistic, like as I said earlier, with a lot of experience, especially throughout high school. So now I'm going to move on and hand over to Beverly, who's going to take us through the next discussion and question.
Thank you very much, Lance. Thank you for asking those questions, and thank you for your responses to those questions. And I would say that anything that you say that's right for you and your experiences, you know, there's no right or wrong answer, basically. So it's just all your experience that we would love to hear. And so thank you for sharing that with me, with us. And so I'd just like to move on to ask you a bit more about what I mentioned at the beginning about the intersection of disability, visual impairment, and being ethnically diverse or being from a BAME community. So this question kind of highlights that a little bit. So often people with an eye condition tell us their healthcare provider did not explain why their eye condition happened. So that might not be your experience, but that's often the case. So for example, African and Caribbean people are 4 to 8 times more likely to develop glaucoma, for example. That's just one eye condition, but I know there's others where we have a disproportionality exists in our communities in terms of eyes. So this is not always something that's highlighted to us as the BAME people who this is happening to. So it may exist outside in reports and statistics and data, but often we're not enlightened about this until we go looking for ourselves. So why did this happen to me? Okay, so I have glaucoma, and I was told that at my when I went for my diagnosis that this was rife in the Caribbean. So that was how it was explained to me. Okay. So my question would be, were you told anything about the connection between your eye condition and your ethnicity on diagnosis? And additionally, I just wanted to tease out if you think there's enough awareness, if that's the case or not the case, about why different ethnicities suffer or have a likelihood, I would say, to have certain eye conditions. So the eye conditions that I know, part of my job with Thomas Pocklington is a research manager. I've worked for Thomas Pocklington for a short time, but before that, I worked for them for a longer time, looking at social research and sight loss. So one of three of the eye conditions are diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and macular degeneration to a certain degree. But mostly it's to do with macular edema or diabetes, etc. So just to the first question to Souleyman.
Yes, so when I had my diagnosis initially at Birmingham Eye Hospital at the age of 7, initially, I think the story has developed over time, maybe because the doctors are becoming more informed at the connection between the eye conditions and heritage, or because I'm getting older so I can understand the language better. But I am certainly hearing more information about that as I get older. Maybe there's more research into it. However, the first, I'm not sure if I'm going to call it like, like a stigma or like a presumption or whatever. But the first thing I hear, especially with my Asian friends as well, who share the same story, is because of the culture we come from, when your parents get married in, circumstances like arranged marriages or, close family marriages, this can have like a genetic defect in the children. And for me, certainly, like, my parents aren't obviously cousins, but they're long distance related. And me and my sister both have the same eye condition, which is quite a very rare eye condition, and it usually crops up when two people with the same condition, whether dormant or active, match, and that's how it gets passed on to the offspring. So there's definitely a genetic aspect, which obviously is close to some sort of family lineage, and especially if those people are closely related and get married. So that's one of the issues, in I guess my community and my friend's Asian community that he comes from as well. So that's one possibility. The second possibility is that, I guess, because of the place I was born, which is in Africa, in Guinea, the resources aren't that strong, both in the healthcare industry, both during the pregnancy element and the when the how do I say this? When the baby comes out, there's no way of scanning the baby's brain. There's no way of scanning the mother's health throughout the pregnancy. And God forbid, like, something happens to the baby's development within the womb or as it's coming out, that will affect the eyes. There's no way of actually stopping that. So that, I guess, is more of like a geographical issue rather than an ethnic issue, but that's still kind of tied in as well. And I think for me personally, during my sort of delivery, there were issues of me coming out, and I lost oxygen during the time. And obviously, as I say, with the lack of resources and the location, that again impacted on my development as well. So there's a lot of intersectional issues that I experienced, as I say, with the family lineage issue and the lack of sufficient equipment during the delivery process to help mitigate the issues coming out. But yeah, but that was one of the battles I've had to kind of face, and one of these new words I'm learning recently, not generational trauma, but like the generational sort of passing on of forcing of people to get married that are in similar families. Like, I've had to fight that battle and say, I want to break away from that culture, and obviously, hopefully, this will start to dilute, the gene pool and hopefully mitigate some of these issues as well. So hopefully I've answered that question, but that's been my experience.
Thank you very much, Souleyman. Thank you. Thank you for giving that regional. That was really interesting, the regional aspects to your story as well. Thank you for that. And I just wanted to go off and ask the same question to Courtney. Can give you a reminder if you like. So is there any connection between your eye condition and your ethnicity on diagnosis? Were you told anything? And additionally, anything about awareness that you think might be useful, or awareness about why, like Souleyman was explaining, why certain ethnicities have certain eye conditions?
Yes, so my eye condition is called, I think, optic nerve glioma. So as before when I said I lost my sight at the age of 3 due to a brain tumor. So I don't think well, not that I'm aware that there was anything connected to my ethnicity. I was born 2.5 months early. So they are saying that was the reason for why I had a brain tumor that was growing since birth to the age of 3, until it was diagnosed. So for me, yeah, I don't think, as I said, not that I'm aware of, that there's anything connected in that sense. And sorry, I forgot the second part of the question.
That's okay.
Sorry.
And no, so I mean, is there anything have you heard about any connections between certain eye conditions and ethnicities? Is that something that you have heard about or read about or
Not
come
for
to
me,
know?
not in my own eye condition. I think for me, when I got diagnosed, that was it. There was nothing else that was said or anything moving forward as to, no one else in my family has had a brain tumor or is even visually
Yeah,
impaired. So
yeah.
there's not.
In general, though, is
Yeah,
this a subject matter that you would have
yeah,
heard anything about?
no.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Courtney. So can I go over to Leah to ask the same question about the connections or intersection between race and eye conditions? Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, so my eye condition is called optic atrophy, which is basically the fibers that are on the nerves connecting with your eye, and the has been from the brain tumor. Now, in my eye condition, the tumor gave me a dual impairment, so I'm deaf and I'm visually impaired as well. So unfortunately, with this tumor, well, luckily I was the only one in the family. Now I started to investigate myself. No one knew how this happened. I was very fit and healthy, and it's only when they told me that my eyes wasn't going to be stable for a long time and I will lose it all eventually, where I started to dig and investigate how this actually happened. So I started with going towards genetic testing, and me and my dad went along, and I found out that I carry the cancer gene, but both of my BRCAs are mutated. So BRCA1 and BRCA2 is either breast or ovarian for women, and I have both of them mutated. So this is where the tumor has come as a symptom. Random tumors are a symptom of both BRCA mutations, or one or the other. And when I got that information, it was the fact that I had lack of my medical history. And I understand that medical health care providers are supposed to let you know, like, about how this is happening to you. I feel that it's the lack of talking about medical history, the real story behind what they're through or what could happen to each of us. A lot of people don't know even about. We have to go by ourselves to go and figure that out, and I think that I had a stroke while having my tumor, and when the doctors are asking me all these questions, I'm saying no, because from my knowledge this is completely random. However, cancer's been very heavy on both sides of my family, but no one told me about the symptoms of having it. I've just seen cancer run through my family left, right and center from a very young age. So having those family members being affected by cancer on both sides, you have to sit down and talk to your family members. Do you see what I mean? Give them an insight of what can be done. How can we make each other stronger? Because a tumor for me was completely off the grid. That wasn't part of the plan at all. Cancer may be a bit later, you know what I mean? But not at the age of 21. So my life had changed. However, I wouldn't say there's awareness with healthcare professionals, but I think it needs to be a bit stronger within families.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think I think I answered the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really to bring out your own experience of these issues, and I think it's highlighting that intersection very well. So thank you very much, Leah. Thank you. So I'd like to now pass over to Sylvia to start the next round of questions.
Thank you, Beverly. So we've heard about some of the challenges you have all faced. Are there any other challenges or additional barriers that you have faced that are specific to your experience? So we will start with Courtney this time.
Honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Like I think for me, like as I keep saying, losing my sight at a young age, like I think it was just set in stone. Like I went to mainstream school, I went to university. There was nothing that could stop me from, achieving what I wanted to achieve. There isn't anything that I could pinpoint to say that, oh, this was a problem, or maybe there are and I've just overlooked them, but yeah, off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, I do understand when you've lived with something for a while, it can be difficult to pick something out. Yeah. So the same question to Souleyman, please.
I think currently for me, in terms of the challenges that I face, firstly, the anticipation for the future. The world is changing at such a fast pace. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be able to go and not go. For example, with shops, most of the shops now are self-service, and I struggle with that. There are no physical banks I can go to. Everything's on an app. There are no human to human sort of interaction anymore. Like, when you want to contact a company for an issue, they want you to fill in a form and go through a robot and AI and all these things. And I think sometimes a bit of humanity is needed, and I love human contact. So that's one of the challenges I'm facing, just anticipation and the change we're going through. And the second thing is how information trickles down to me about my eye condition and how society is developing alongside that. Obviously I get my 6-monthly/yearly updates with the doctors, but I'm not hearing about the latest, and the greatest research and what's happening, with things like gene therapy and stem cell research and robotics, eyesight, like all these things. Like, you hear about it on the newspaper or in a podcast, but I don't feel like there's anybody there talking me through it. So that's the second challenge I face. And I guess the third challenge I face is services, day-to-day services that I used to use and used to appreciate as a visually impaired person, within the council, within public transport, just services that cater to us as blind and visually impaired people. That's a third challenge I'm seeing quickly dwindling. The fourth one used to be representation, but I'm happy that we're gathered here today, that this is kind of like the perfect form of representation and actually getting my voice heard. As I've said to you before, like, sectors can be quite scattered sometimes. You've either got the blind community, the disability community, the Black community. It's always been very segregated, and you kind of struggle to put yourself in a box. But that's one of the reasons why I really, really appreciate this. I know I've just listed a lot of things, but those are my kind of challenges that I'm facing or anticipating at the minute.
Thank you, Souleyman. That was actually quite comprehensive. Yeah. So the next question same question to Leah, please. Any other challenges that you have faced that we haven't already, or that you haven't already spoken about? Any additional barriers specific to your experience?
I think that there are the general challenges, like what Souleyman said, about travel, about technology, about interacting with other human beings. We're definitely losing that. And I think my biggest challenge that I had was about my identity. Now, I think that I feel like every family member or family is like the Spice Girls. Yeah, you got the smart one, you got the sporty one, you got this one, you got that one. Everyone's got their strengths, and I was always Sporty Spice. You know what I mean? I was the one to go to the Olympics. That was what I chose to do from the age of 11, and that was my thing. And when I was from Shima, I confused myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to get back. I never let go of not going back. My sport was fencing. I did sword fighting, and it was, I always thought I would get back to that. And when that was, I feel robbed. I feel like I was snatched away from me. I didn't know where to go next. So trying to figure out myself was really the hardest thing. There was no backup plan. When you're on the GB team, that's it. Do you see what I mean? That's what I've chosen. After my GCSEs, that was my life. And all that, those hours of dedication, it was heartbreaking. However, the next challenge I had was becoming a mum, because I'm trying to figure out myself. And now I've got someone who's dependent on me. I find that quite funny. Even when she's calling me mum, I'm like, oh, yeah. And that's what kind of gets me up every day. I know it sounds very like cheesy to say, but my daughter is really like my carer. She's my somebody. She's the person who was supposed to be here to get me back up. And I understand that not a lot of people have that, but you need to find that. That is how you find who you're supposed to be. But I chose to not just be a mom, I'm myself too. And I'm still trying to figure that out as well. I don't know how long it's going to take, but, you know, we're still at it. So there was that. I think one of the other challenges that I had was that 2 years ago, my daughter's father passed away. So now I'm forced to myself. It's like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's going to get done at least today. And it was hard losing fencing and the team and that whole, I've traveled quite a lot, which I'm very grateful for, and just being stable and still for a little bit. And losing my daughter's father was something that forced my hand. I had to get up. I had to do what I needed to do. But that also ended up me being on other coping mechanisms, like alcohol. I ended up becoming an alcoholic. I ended up leaning and resting on alcohol, but I was functioning. So it wasn't that bad. But you have to, that's what I thought. But it was, because I'm not grabbing who I am. I'm pretending to be someone else instead of talking about it, instead of speaking up about it. And my challenge was looking in the mirror and telling myself who I am. Don't let any other person tell you who you are. You already know who you are. Do you see what I mean? So for me, that will always be my biggest challenge, because it's always going to change. But I think identity for me these last couple of years has definitely shifted, but I think that it's shifted for the better. Definitely. Oh, and for the future, we're all wishing for more money. All of us. But not just that, that teach me to grow and be better within motherhood, within, I call it chadulthood, because I don't feel like an adult so much until bills come. I love to be a child anytime I get the opportunity. So we're just going to mix and blend that. And also, I need to continue to have education. As long as I'm learning something, then I'm good to go. Like, life and technology can always change, but as blind and visually impaired people, we're going to get around it anyway. So as long as I continue to get education, money and growth, I'm good for the future.
Thank you, Leah. My condolences on the loss of your child's father. I think you have highlighted something really important that we sort of tend to forget about as well. Whilst we're going through maybe being a parent and sight loss and everything, we tend to forget about ourselves and our mental health and everything. So yeah, that's definitely, I'm glad to hear that, you know, you are finding yourself and you're on the up and everything. So I'm going to hand over to Lance to do the next segment, please.
Thank you, Sylvia. So the next part is we're just going to talk about the successes that you've had. So I'll start with Leah first this time. Could you tell us about any successes you have had in your experiences, highlighting support services and pathways used?
So since my visual impairness, I have done quite a bit. I work for a charity working with vulnerable mothers and their children, which is absolutely amazing. They are all sighted, but for me to come as a visually impaired person brings awareness just through conversation and just through work. And luckily I'm with a charity that does adapt and help me as well. I am an author as well, which has been great. I started trading in lockdown, and that was interesting. I think that was the start of this multiple streams addiction that I have. But I wanted to do it because I didn't know any visually impaired or blind people that did, and that was successful from it. But that was great. I became debt free with that, and I still do continue to do it on the side. I started a YouTube channel, being impaired, and which was great. I started my own business as well, doing hair, which is like my happy place. I have my own hair. I retwist and style locks, and I don't use a mirror or anything like that. It's literally just with my hands, but I do it for other people as well, and little kids' hair as well, which is like, again, my happy place, which is fun. And I'm also a mother, which I think is an ongoing success because we're still alive and kicking, and every day she's wanting something different. She's only 5, going on 15, but she's she's my little handbag, really. Yeah.
Thank you, Leah. There's some great accomplishments there, and I'm happy that you're definitely doing well and keep going as well.
Thank you.
So, Courtney, I'm gonna come to you and ask, could you tell us about any successes you have had in your experiences?
Yeah. So I think a couple of my successes are that I managed to go through university and get a degree. I think that was one of my biggest challenges once I left school. And I graduated in criminology. I always have to tell people that because criminology is my favorite. I think another of my successes is that being able to actually work and have a job. I've been in my job for 7 years now, and in my teenagers, I didn't know where I was going to be when I got older. So I think for me, those are a couple of my successes, and I think I wouldn't be where I am today without the family support, the charities that I came across in my teenage years, and also, you know, currently working for Thomas Pocklington Trust. If I didn't have those good charities in behind me, I don't think I would have built the confidence and been able to say, this is where I am today. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. It's good to hear your achievements as well. And Souleyman, I'm going to ask, could you tell us about any successes you have had in your experience?
Yes, definitely, Lance. Thank you very much. It was really good to hear you guys' successes, by the way. It was really, really inspiring to hear both Leah and Courtney's. And just to bounce off Leah's a little bit, when she was talking about identity, I think one of my biggest successes was, I guess, extricating and separating my identity from just my visual impairment. And it was a big battle for me during lockdown. I think throughout my life, it's always been, you're visually impaired, yes, but you're somebody's child. You're visually impaired, yes, but you're a student and you've got your GCSEs coming up. You're visually impaired, yes, but you've got your friends. You're visually impaired, yes, but you're an athlete. But then lockdown hit and it's like, you're visually impaired and you're staring at a blank wall. And now you have to like deal with the reality of it, and you have to deal with all of the negative emotions you've never confronted about it. And I think for me, like one of my biggest successes personally was coming out the other end of that and kind of coming to terms with it. I think you never really come to terms with it until you actually hit that brick wall and kind of have to deal with it. It's a very lonely path that you have to walk as an individual. You can have support networks, you can have, counseling, you can have friends and family, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of you that has to go through it, and no one else can really understand that. And so for me, I guess, my biggest success is finding a reason to to kind of smile and kind of build a purpose around and beyond just my visual impairment. Of other successes, I think is just being able to do public speaking and share my not just my successes, but my journey, and share my story with other people, both young people who are dealing with mental health and looking for I guess career path, etc. And even in a corporate setting, just giving people sort of like tools to get the edge at work and things like that. So building a satisfying and fulfilling career as well as being another success for me. But definitely, like, seeing my vision impairment from a positive perspective, I think it's a very, very, very fine line between being in the complete darkness and staring at the abyss and thinking, oh crap, how am I going to get through this? And as I say, like trying to find a reason to smile and look at it from a positive perspective. So for me, definitely seeing how other people with other disabilities deal with theirs, I'm very, very happy that I've dealt with it very positively.
Thank you, Souleyman, and I can relate to that a little bit because I know that I have done like different types of, well, I've done a mental health stream before on YouTube, especially for kids with mental health, learning disabilities, or autism, or any type of learning disability, so I can relate to that as well. Thank you all for sharing that as well. I think it's very important to know that, you guys are definitely having some positive achievements as well, because I think every time I hear, people would say, people visually impaired, it's like a bad thing, but it's also a good thing in a way, because it's more of like, when you achieve those positive things, it's more like like as a role model as well, because it's like other people can look and think I could achieve that as well. So I think it's very great to hear you guys' positive achievements as well. I'm gonna pass on to Beverly, who's gonna go through the last question and discussion.
Oh, thank you so much, Lance, and thank you for saying that as well. And thank you for all your responses have been wonderful. I certainly feel inspired by all of your achievements and things that you've done. So before we wrap up and open the floor to any questions, I'm sure there will be, I just wanted to ask you, each in turn, what are your hopes for the future? And if there's anything that you haven't covered in any of the other questions as well, and that you wanted to highlight. But it'd be wonderful to hear about your hopes for the future. And if we can start this time with Souleyman.
Yeah, I'm just checking, I've muted myself. My hopes for the future are to live a life that isn't based on coping with my disability. I think a lot of the times 50% of our day is based on actually coping. And if I can find a way to just, as dark as this may sound, I wish I was completely blind so I could then just get on with it and then utilize my other senses and, have an excuse to just be a mess. But because I have some vision, you're just playing a juggling game. So yeah, I guess my hope for the future is to not spend half my time coping, but also to just continue having a positive mindset towards my disability.
Thank you very much, Souleyman. And yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about, your wishes and things like that. It's just really that, when we're having to cope with so much every day, we just want a break sometimes. And I hear that. I really hear that. So thank you for your response. So Courtney, what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future, I think for me, I know that my sight loss will never change. And this is what it is. I think I'm used to that now. So I think my hopes for the future is just to continue living life and building on what I've already achieved, and just continue, enjoying whatever's next up in line for me.
Thank you, Courtney. But you certainly built a lot, and I loved you talking about your achievements and learning a bit more about you this evening. Thank you. And Leah, finally, what is your hope for the future?
I think my hopes for the future is trying to reach out to little girls or little guys, or little people that are just starting out their visual impaired journey. I think when I lost my sight, I was lost, and there was no one that I knew or could reach out to that asked how to do it. You know, there wasn't that connection. I also want to educate. I can educate people, or there is a parent with a visually impaired child, or just to bring awareness to what vision impaired people actually look like and what they can do. It's not about what they can't do. I think that is the most powerful thing, because we can do a lot. And supporting what Souleyman said, I think that we've all thought about just being completely blind, like just get over it, like let's just get on with it. Definitely. But I also want to try and continue to influence other people, to become an influencer, to show other people what we can do as a community, to come together and be stronger. I mean, well done. I take my hat off to Sylvia, because I've seen her absolutely everywhere. I don't know if it's because I've liked one video, but it's all like coming up constantly. But no, she's doing absolutely amazing. And I just want to have a round of applause for her, take my hat off to her, because it's consistent and it's continued. And it is such a powerful move, because other than Sylvia, I don't see anyone else that's like myself, that is absolutely trying to knock down these barriers on social media. You know, even how she goes through challenges. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you very much, Leah. Sorry, you went. I don't know if it's my signal, but you went a bit funny at the end. I couldn't hear quite the last sentence, but I got the ethos of the message that you were saying, and it strikes me that the word that came out of those last comments was powerful, and that's what really came out for me. That we together can be powerful, and in showing how we've broken down barriers, how we talk about our achievements, what we want to do from the future, can be really, really powerful. And you talking about just what Sylvia's done has highlighted that as well. So thank you so much for all your comments and answers to our probing questions this evening. It's been wonderful and not over yet. So I think we're going to now open the floor to questions, and also if there's anything in the chat that people might want to ask you.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment.
Okay, so there's anyone, feel free to unmute yourself now, turn your cameras on if you would like to ask a question, have a comment, anything you would like to say to one of our panelists.
So whilst we're waiting for that, I'll just come in and say thank you so much, Leah. I've seen what you've been doing as well, and you're doing really well. And like you said, it's really about just getting that courage and coming together and literally believing in your voice, because I think that's kind of what we've all kind of struggled with, from what I've heard as well from all three of you. It's just kind of that finding your voice and finding what your message is, and believing that, you know, what you have to say is important, and literally just going for it. I realized when I introduced myself, I forgot to mention that I am severely sight impaired, which means I'm registered blind. And I've had uveitis, which was diagnosed when I was about 5 or 6 years old. So I've had it since childhood. And I'm also a mother. So that's a little bit more about me that I maybe forgot to mention. Anyone has any questions, we can sort of answer them. Or the panelists, please.
Yeah, Kim, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, I do. Hi, I was just checking if I'm muted. Honestly, every single one of you are just absolutely amazing, like such an inspiration. I too am visually impaired. I have retinitis pigmentosa. I was so interested to find out at when you guys were diagnosed, especially I think Souleyman. Souleyman, I only found out later on about the intermarriage, probably in the last 2 years, but I was just sent home to go blind. And I really hope for some kind of gene therapy or some kind of a cure. But honestly, Leah, your honesty, it's just so beautiful. And I'd love to know what you've written, that you're an author. And all of you, Sylvia, Brenda, Courtney, you are all just I'm blown away. I'm so grateful that I came in tonight because you give me such a lot to think about. And it was so beautiful hearing your honesty and you sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for your wonderful comments. Thank you very much. And perhaps we can, if you'd like to share with us, Leah, what you've written, then we can put that out in the post-webinar mail out that we do. If you would like to do that.
Yeah. So it was a group book that we did all together, but I was trying to find different ways of expressing myself during COVID, and I ended up writing poems. So I write poems of absolutely everything, but it was about grief and my sight loss and all of that good stuff. But it's called Hope Exists Amongst the Chaos, and you'll be able to find it in the Barbican Library. I don't know if you're in London, but it's in the Barbican Library, and it's called Hope Exists Amongst the Chaos. So it's
thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm in Northern Ireland, but I'll try and find it.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leah. And do we have any other questions?
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Hi, Sylvia. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
So, yeah, I'm Tom, and I'm a very good friend of Sylvia's. And thank you very much for inviting me this evening. I think you're all fantastic, very, very inspirational people. And one thing that I've got out of this webinar is the positivity on this panel is absolutely amazing. Despite all the challenges that you've faced, and I just want to congratulate you on all your achievements that you've had, and thank you very much for sort of educating me as well. And I just love the positivity in this session. Because the people I interface with day to day in the workplace, just socially, the people I interface with, haven't got those sort of visual impairment challenges, or yet they complain about in life. They complain about insignificant things, yet I'm sitting in this forum, and I'm just inspired by the fact that you're so positive in the way that you approach things. I've actually got a question. I work in the construction industry, and I work for a developer. And I've got a question for Souleyman, actually. Sorry to put you on the spot, Souleyman. But I did love some of the answers that you came back with, actually. especially the challenges that you were facing regarding sort of like new technologies and the challenges sort of in the social environment. So my question to you is there anything, I work in housing and construction, is there anything that you feel like the construction industry and housing could do more in terms of the built environment to make things easier?
See, this is interesting. One of my most recent businesses is going into businesses like yourselves and doing not just team building activities and, you know, having sort of employees and workplaces see what it feels like to be visually impaired and carry out exercises and questionnaires and do a little speech and kind of like have a warm sort of half a day session. So, you know, I'm open to offering that if that's what you're interested in more from the work perspective. But from developer perspective, I mean, from through the new builds I've seen, they've actually been quite phenomenal compared to the older houses. There's a lot more lighting that comes into the room. It's bright and airy. The contrast is usually quite good. Everything is pretty consistent with the doors and steps. So I've actually never had a complaint for a new build from that perspective. But I think it's always good to have the awareness. Recently, I spoke to an estate agent who have never had, you know, any formal engagement with the visually impaired community, and they've had people, you know, people with guide dogs come in to do house viewings, and you know they don't know how to interact with them. So that's one of the examples where I've, you know, come in and talk to them about how do you deal with a visually impaired potential tenant, and you know, talking about steps, you know, drawing yellow lines, helping them get up and down staircases, thinking about provisions like, you know, lifts in flats and things like that. So so it's one of those things, because even though you can say visually impaired, everybody is different. For example, I prefer light and bright, you know, rooms, whereas someone else prefers dark, dim things because they don't like the exposure to light. So it is, it's one of those things where it's a jigsaw puzzle and everyone has different preferences. But from my perspective, currently, with the new builds I've seen, they've all been phenomenal so far.
And you don't feel like we can do more, because I work in technical and design specifically. So I'm a technical manager. So is there anything specific that we should be thinking about in design that you feel that we could actually do more of, if you like? I know you're saying that a lot of the new builds that you've experienced, you feel like we're doing enough, but is there anything more that you think we could be doing?
Maybe when it comes to the way the information is packaged, you know, when I look at, you know, floor plans or images of buildings, if there are different ways I could access them. So for example, if there could be sort of descriptions attached to pictures, attached to floor plans, things like that. But I guess I'm open to the other panelists to also answer that question. I'm sure they've had experiences.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
but yeah, I'd say the only thing I'd say is the way, you know, the information is accessed. I always tend to have someone else explain to me what, you know, if I'm looking at a rental that I'm interested in, like I need audio description from a friend or a family member, and it'd be great if that kind of came with, you know, with a property or something automatically.
So something, yeah. So sort of like working like a home user guide or something like that. Would assist you a little bit better if moving into a new.
Yeah, large print, braille, you know, formats that blind and visually impaired people can use also.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I think that is completely overlooked in the industry, actually. So yeah, I'll take on board your comment there. Does anybody else want to add anything to that? Thanks, Souleyman, for answering.
I support.
I think Leah was going to say something.
Hi, Leah.
Yeah, I mean, Hi, I'm currently trying to move as well, and everything that Souleyman said, I have to have someone that comes with me, but I'm on auto bidding now as well, so someone else will bid on my behalf, which is good and bad, because I would like to be more independent. So having that accessibility would be great as well. Also, what I've found with new builds is that where you would do the most activity or the most dangerous or needs to concentrate, wherever that is, it hasn't got a lot of lighting. A lot of the parts, I know every house is different, but it's not as close to a window or natural lighting. So if there's any under the counter lighting, I have to do a lot of adaptations to houses. But if it already comes there, it'll be much easier.
Yeah, so you feel like that should come as a standard, you know, in new build homes, and sort of almost be built into regulation, if you like.
Yeah, well, there's usually a beauty light on top of the mirror in the bathrooms, which I've seen quite often, but there's no under the counter light.
Okay.
I mean,
And what about sort of external environment? What about sort of external environment and sort of communal parts, like in apartments and things like that? Is there anything we could do in those sort of areas? In the external environment as well.
Can I just say, sorry, it's Courtney. One of the things that I find, I'm not sure if you're speaking about this, but like overhanging bushes, so like trees that have been put in, or nice plants that people plant, and then they do them. And I'm a cane user, so to get to my house, I'd follow the wall and usually get poked in the face or in the eye by some like prickly bush or something. So I think I don't know if this is what you were talking about, but yeah, maybe something along those lines about not having I'm not saying not plant trees or not plant bushes or things like that, but yeah, just make sure that they're looked after. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to refer to a couple of comments that have been popping up on the chat, so I don't want to miss them out for any reason. So we've got something here by Monique saying, I enjoyed this webinar so much. Thanks for inviting me. It's so important to have conversations like this. Your positivity is so encouraging, and each and one of you have been very inspiring. And Jennifer has also said, this is so needed. I really enjoyed each person sharing their knowledge, journey, and future aspirations.
Thank you.
That's great.
Just checking the time there. I have a quick question to all three panelists while we wait for other questions. How did you find it sort of being aware of the services that are available for people who are visually impaired within your local setting, so wherever you live, maybe the local council services, maybe the charities and so on and so forth. How did you find the awareness and knowledge of such services available to you, and at what, how soon did you find out? Do you feel like you struggled a bit before you did? So yeah, I'm gonna start with or whoever wants to jump in first.
Yeah, I will say, sorry, it's Courtney. I would just say I went to mainstream school, and then I think there was only one or two people with visual impairment in secondary school, and I think I only came across services when I was like 18. As I said, now I'm 35, so I think it was quite late on in my visual impairment where I came into contact with other visually impaired people that I could share experiences with, and and now in this day and age they are my circle of friends. I don't have that what I'd say sighted friends that I would like call upon, or and it is through all the charities that I've been visiting. So yeah, so that's my experience.
Thank you, Courtney. Anyone else? Souleyman?
Yeah, initially a lot of my source of information was in school. So because I was very attached to the special education needs department, you know, things were always passed on to me. But as I found going into adulthood and, you know, the diminishing services such as adult, you know, services, which, you know, I got kicked out of because I said there's no more space. You know, there's kind of a limiting aspect to it now. And it's forced me to be more independent and be more resourceful, which I guess is a good thing and a bad thing. You know, it's not handed to you on a plate, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's still quite difficult to find services. Like, it was quite late on that I found out about the, you know, the Freedom Pass was accessible to visually impaired people, and, you know, things like this, and that you could actually get help in the underground. You know, I had to find out through word of mouth and asking around and things like this. So I guess Google's my friend at the minute. That's how I kind of tend to find out about concessions and services and help visually impaired people in certain industries and infrastructure. Yeah, I guess, yeah, at the minute it's solely relying on, you know, internet research. But, you know, with the great work that, you know, Sylvia and I guess Leah are doing as well, and other visually impaired influencers, that's another big one at the minute. You know, not just about the lifestyle adaptations you're making to make your lives easier, you know, the mental sort of attributes you've had to cultivate to be, you know, a better visually impaired person, but also just the hacks that you have day to day. Those have been, you know, absolutely phenomenal to watch, you know, like giving me aha moments every single day. So they've been brilliant as well.
Thank you, Souleyman. I can definitely relate to that. Generally, the services as an adult, it does become a bit more difficult to find out about them. But I think, like you said, once you figure out a way to find out about them, you know where to look, then you do find them. Leah, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I became visually impaired at the age of 21. So I have only experienced these services as an adult, but I'm very blessed to be in a borough of London that really does support disabled and the disabled community in general. And when I came out of hospital, I was in hospital for about 8 months. And then when I came out, I was referred straight to a sensory worker. And that was the person who kind of opened up the world. So he was kind of like, okay, so what do you need? And shout out to Rob and the sensory team when it's done. But he has just been my crutch. Anything that I needed, he had or will find out for me. But I think for someone who doesn't have that access, one thing I would say is go and learn the Disability Act off by heart.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Do we have any questions? Has anybody got their hands up? Any comments in the chat, please?
Yeah, we've got a comment that's just gone up now from Siobhan. It says, I've enjoyed listening to everybody's experience and learning. Thank you for putting this together. Everyone here has a different journey and honestly are so inspirational, especially key points about how the world is changing in terms of tech and the effects this has. And there's no hands up at the moment.
Thank you.
I was thinking I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be greedy and ask you while you guys are here. I mean, what another thing that stood out for me was how entrepreneurial you guys have been. That I picked up, and as someone who's set up their own business and tried to help other people with sight loss and other people from different ethnic groups, I was wondering how you found the process, what kind of services did you access to help you to set up your business, what kind of help did you have, and were there any challenges to that at all? So I know it was Souleyman and Leah who said that they work for themselves or set their own business up. And I know, Souleyman, you have been on The Apprentice, have been shy about that, haven't really said anything else. So if you'd like to comment, I think if Souleyman, would you like to start?
I don't talk about it because I got fired.
You thought you got on the way? No.
Yeah, I already got I already got points. But yeah. Yeah, in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, it's something you get forced into. I think what the few, some of the principles of being an entrepreneur is, independence, a vision for the future, and finding solutions to problems. And these are the core principles of also of having a disability. And you naturally just fall into that mindset. You have to find solutions every day in order to find out what's happening in the news, make breakfast, get to the tube station. Like, you're always finding solutions to these problems, finding an outfit that matches for your baby, if you're colorblind, and so you naturally have this gift, which again is another positivity to all, there's always a positivity to an issue we deal with. There's always a flip, there's always a mirror opposite. So, the disabilities and the disadvantages we have, there's always a positive side to it if you're willing to look. And so these are natural inherent gifts that come along with, having our disability. So, it's kind of like we've had the confidence to tap into it, and I think recently, which I'm really, really enjoying, is also to show it and to express it and to display it to the world. And I think that's kind of like the next evolution of it is tapping into the global community, the big wide world, and talking about it and sharing our individual stories. And I think that's kind of like the new version of it. But 100%, I do agree with you. Entrepreneurialism comes as a natural sort of extension to our vision empowerment. And I think the ones that have, I guess, have reached out and expressed themselves and, are really disappointed.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. I agree with that. It's something you seem to find people who have overcome adversity in some way are the ones we look to, or the ones who share their stories the most and have overcome the most to inspire other people. Does any of the other panel members like to answer? So, and Courtney, don't think I'm missing you out, because you talking about your experience of doing, going to college and doing your degree is something that showed a lot of determination. As someone who had to study with a visual impairment, I understand how difficult it can be at times. So I'm looking for those kind of character attributes, as Solomon says, something that we have. So does anybody like to comment on anything about entrepreneurial attributes, or just strength of mind, or what they've overcome a little bit more than we've already talked about?
Leah speaking. I
Leah.
think that even just a business startup, start your own business, just being on that entrepreneurial journey is one of the most empowering but hardest. It's an absolute whirlwind. It's you fighting against you, but it's you celebrating yourself. It's just a whole journey of life, and it's thrilling to me. I love it. I absolutely love it. Even if I've started this business, I've got like 5 other businesses in my head, and I think, I could run all of them. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's just how I've been. With startup, I to see if I was able to study. It's just like a little course, but then I realized that I'm good at networking, and then I'm like speaking to people, and then I'm good at finding, like, connecting with other people. I love hearing other people's stories, and then it was public speaking and then word of mouth that I liked. But then people kept complimenting me on my hair that I do, and when I do, my daughter's called Zena Lynn, my daughter's hair, and then they were like, "Oh, can you do mine?" And I kind of fell into hairdressing, if I'm honest. And again, it's my happy place, but it's word of mouth. I love connecting with new people, and again, it's just another way to bring awareness to what we can do, and that's how I've continued to do it. And it's growing. The business is growing I don't even know what I'm doing, but it's growing. Like, as long as you stay consistent, it will actually come to you. It gravitates to you if you're ready for it, you know?
Yeah, I get that consistency. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, honestly, growing a business, it takes time. And sometimes you have more ideas than you can cope with, like you said. So, but it's the consistency and sticking with it that I found has been really, really helpful for me. So thank you for those comments. Or do we have any other comments or questions from anybody else coming through?
No, nothing at the moment, Beverly.
Thank you very much. Well, nearing the end, if you all hang on, we're going to put up our poll in a few minutes. So that, and we'll give you a little bit more time to do the poll than usual. But Sylvia, would anything else you'd like to add, or Lance?
I don't have anything to add other than to say thank you to all of the panelists. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you and getting to learn more about you. I'm inspired, even more inspired to kind of, keep going and go harder even. So yeah, this has been amazing getting all of you together. And thank you to everyone as well for joining us this evening. Lance, maybe you want to say something?
Just echoing off of what Sylvia was saying, thank you to all the panelists and thank you for everyone to join. It was great to hear all of your experiences and have this discussion and really just to break down and learn more about you guys and what you guys experienced. So thank you guys again, and it was an absolute pleasure to be a part of this as well.
Thank you, guys. It's Bhavini here. I just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you, Beverly, Lance, Sylvia, for hosting, planning, putting this all together, and our excellent speakers today, Courtney, Souleyman, and Leah. I feel very inspired and very empowered by each of your stories, and just want to say thank you from me. The poll is launched on your screens. It is accessible through VoiceOver, and if you are able to complete the poll, it just helps us plan future webinars, just to get your feedback, how engaging you found it, and if there's anything we can do to improve, or other topics you may like. So if you are able to complete the poll, that would really, really help us. Whilst you're doing that, if I may share some further information. So we are looking to host, for those that joined in July, we had a Vision Through Creativity webinar where we heard from 3 speakers who all are creative in their own respective careers, their hobbies, their kind of activities that they do. Beverly was one of them, so that is on our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it. We had Baluji, who is a blind musician, and Rukaya, who is a blind artist. We are doing Vision Through Creativity part 2 in December the 6th, where we'll hear from 3 additional panel members who all have various creative roles, hobbies, or businesses that they've launched. And we're actually looking to put together another webinar on the 22nd of November. And that will be hearing from 16 to 21-year-olds, children and young people, just to get their experiences. We've often come across parents and children who, I don't know, have been mollycoddled, have been wrapped up in cotton wool because, one reason for another. And we want to showcase actually, being all open and having that honest conversation about your visual impairment, your diagnosis, and trying to accept that help and support can help you in education, your career paths and things like that. So that's going to launch on 22nd of November. As soon as we've got the final speaker confirmed, we'll be sharing some details on that. So just some upcoming 2 webinars we've got coming up for you guys. But yeah, thank you so much to each and every single one of you. And I'll hand back over to Sylvia, Lance, and Beverly to wrap up.
Okay. Well, I would just like to echo what everyone else has said. Thank you so much for your contributions, your comments, and being so open and frank with us about your experiences and listening to our questions. So to each one of you, I say thank you very much. Also to my co-hosts, to Sylvia and Lance as well. Thank you for supporting me in the run up to this as well. And we can, like Bhavini says, there's so much more happening if you'd like to keep in touch with us about. So thank you very much. And don't forget to fill in the poll as we bring the webinar to an end now.
I'd just also like to say thank you for not just inviting me, but for giving me the opportunity to listen to somebody's incredible individual, which I've not spoken to before. And you know, it's one thing to be visually impaired, but it's another thing to hear the other stories, the multitude of stories that are out there that you know differ from your story as well. So I've certainly gone away inspired as a visually impaired person, listening to others, not just the panelists today, but even you know the hosts Beverly and Sylvia and sorry, escaped my mind.
Lance.
Lance, thank you very much, and Lance as well.
That's
Thank you so
okay.
much for being so transparent about your disability as well. And you know, and the fact that you're still sort of persevering, which is absolutely incredible. So I'm 1000% going away inspired from this, and you know, something that will keep me going for a long time. And you know, if anybody wants to, you know, reach out and maybe build a, you know, friendship outside of this, I'm more than willing also. I think the communities, you know, what was it? My favorite quote: if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And hopefully, you know, if anyone wants to go far with me, you can send me a friend request or something.
I love that. I love that quote. Thank you very much, Souleyman.
Okay.
And just finally, would any of our other panelists like to make a comment before we go?
Yeah, I would like to say hello. Hello. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you, Sylvia, for the invitation to this webinar. It's honestly been like a great opportunity as well. Yeah, if you want to look up my hair stuff, it's One Lily Locks on Instagram. And also my YouTube channel is The Blind Mom. And you can see my Instagram on my name at the bottom. So yeah, definitely connect with me. I'm not scary, I promise. And I'll introduce you to my canes and stuff. But yeah, any questions as well you may have for me, that's fine. No question is a dumb question. And I'll take them all and answer them as honestly as I can. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Courtney, any final words for you?
Yeah, no, I would just like to say thank you so much, especially to Sylvia for giving me the opportunity to take part in this webinar. And I would just like to say also, Leah and Souleyman, you are amazing people also. And I would like to keep in touch if possible. So yeah, no, thank you everyone for for the webinar.
Amazing, brilliant. Thank you to everyone that's joined us today as well. And we'll be sharing the recording to this webinar. As soon as we can, it will be emailed out to you all. And if you can't wait for that, then it has been live streamed on our BAME Vision Facebook page. So do give us a follow, like our page, and you'll find all of our webinar recordings on there, as well as on our YouTube channel. So thank you all, and hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening.